I love that little intro tune. Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Reignmakers Fantasy Golf Show presented by DraftKings Reignmakers. Quick, if you're listening to this and you like fantasy golf, but you haven't gotten into Reignmakers yet, now I feel like is one of the best times to go get into the game. If you head over to our site, otmnft.com/Reignmakers, you can take a look at the player's view and take a look at pricing across tiers. I really think it's probably one of the best times that I've seen pricing wise to get into the game. We've got the Mexico Open coming up. We've got a lot of golf still in front of us, so a ton of time to use your portfolio. So if you haven't taken the dive yet and are interested in Reignmakers, head on over there, take a look. Would love to chat with you guys about it, but I think it's one of the best times to get into the game. But first, of course, it's Monday, and you know what that means. We've got the recap and preview show. We're going to finalize our thoughts on the Zurich from over the weekend and look forward to the Mexico Open this week with another pretty heavy top fields and a ton of middling options, which we'll get into. TJ's favorite golfer is in the field, and I mean, his price is just astronomical, so I'm interested to hear his takes. And with me, as always, on Monday is TJ. TJ, how was the weekend, boss?
Weekend was good. Always fun to have a little bit of a different spin on a PGA Tour event with the partners. We get two young-ish, I would say, PGA golfers, 26 and 27 years old. Davis Riley and Nick Hardy getting their first career PGA Tour wins. So not often that two people are able to both get their first win on the same weekend. Obviously, the partners format is unique in itself in that it allows that opportunity. And yeah, I think it's a fun event. I honestly didn't watch too much of it. Watched the home stretch on Sunday. Was of course following the leaderboard, and yeah, we had as we talked about last week, Cantlay and Xander as the massive favorites. I think they still ended up finishing in the top 5, yeah, T4. So right in the mix as expected. And then we've got a similar setup coming up this weekend, as you already alluded to, with Jon Rahm. It's a plus 280 to win, which is just absolutely insane. That might be the shortest odds I've ever seen. I think I saw a tweet, or you might even put it out earlier, about or someone in Discord about 3 times when Rahm has been like under plus 500. So we'll definitely dive into that, but excited to touch on the Zurich Classic a bit here. And then we have one more, I'd say, week-ish field event. And then we get right into the Wells Fargo, which is going to be a designated elevated event with all of the big names. And then we're just a few short weeks away from the second major of the year in the PGA Championship. So looking forward to all of that. And as Coop said, great time to get involved in Reignmakers. If you have not already, go ahead and sign up via the link here. And if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hammer that like button and subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast feed, subscribe to the podcast as well.
Yeah, well said on two young guys, their first PGA Tour win. Huge win for Hardy and Davis Riley. They get the 2-year exemption in a strange event. You know, I think in general, the team event is one of the weirder and more chaotic PGA Tour events. You have 2 rounds where you're not even playing every golf shot, but they were the definition of steady Eddie. 64, 66, 63, 65 to capture the win by 2 shots at minus 30 for the entire tournament. And yeah, really high scoring week, given the fact that you're taking best ball and you know, the PGA Tour, I still think is interesting. They call it foursomes and 4-ball. And I still never really get to like, yes, you're playing in 4s, but you're absolutely only playing in 2s. Your opponents really don't necessarily matter or care at all. So I always think that's an interesting like language and linguistic thing when it comes to golf. But everybody else seemed to have at least one round where they were, call it average or even a little bit sub-average, subpar. But you know, Hardy and Riley just get it done by being incredibly consistent throughout the Thursday, Friday rounds. They go low on the Saturday round where they're playing best ball, and then they shoot a 65 on Sunday. They birdie 2 out of the last 3 holes, the 16th, the 17th, and then the 18th is actually a par 5. They only make a par there, but they still are good enough to win by 2. On their heels was Wyndham Clark and Bo Hostler. thought they played impeccable golf all the way until the back nine on Sunday. Had led the tournament for the majority of it, or were tied for the lead for the majority of it, and they were just playing stellar and couldn't put a back nine together. Where you're an alternate shot, it really does come down to making a couple shots here or there. If a putt goes in, it doesn't go in. They actually bogeyed two of the last three holes. They bogeyed 16 and 17, which essentially took them out of contention. End up birdieing 18 for solo third. But I thought those two guys played really well. Wyndham Clark, a good nugget from last week, continues to just be a massive, massive fantasy golf, monster when it comes to scoring fantasy golf points. So I think that's really, really, really interesting, and we'll be keeping an eye on. He's third in odds, I believe, this week for the Mexico Open. A little bit of a dip underneath Finau, so it's Rahm, Finau, and then dips down to Wyndham. But I think he's been playing really good golf, and let's see if he can continue. Other guys that I want to mention, worth noting, the thumbnail of the show here, Homa and Morikawa. I mean, really, the only way to describe it is neither of their games are really sharp right now. Their recent form is certainly not anywhere near their top games. And when you're playing together and you add that sort of mix of team chemistry, you kind of hope that, someone brings it out of you, and they just ultimately didn't get it done. They only missed the cut by two. They shoot 8 under Thursday and Friday. But in general, from someone with their firepower in this field, you would think that they had a pretty good chance to not only make the cut, but contend. And they just don't get it done this week. I think neither of them really think too much about this event, other than the fact that, they've got more events to play and they need to sharpen their games ahead of the PGA Championship. But it'll be interesting to watch them. Homa's been in a little bit of a slide for about a month now, compared to where he was in the California swing. So interested, any thoughts or takes on Homa and Morikawa from you?
Yeah, in a bit of a rut here for both of them, and it's not super shocking. I feel like they're both, while they're certainly two of have proven they're two of the best golfers in the world, they don't necessarily have the most consistency, I'd say, over the past couple of years, right? Like they're the type of guys that can come out and win any given tournament, but can also come out and miss the cut at any given tournament. So, if anything, it's probably presents a bit of a buy low opportunity ahead of the upcoming majors. Colin Morikawa won the PGA, two or 3 years ago, right? So definitely both guys that can go and show up and compete there. Agreed with everything you said about the Clark and Hostler duo. I know you had mentioned them, if not on this show last week, on the Wednesday show, as one of the pairs that you were targeting. Thought that they were a great play coming into the week, and were in great position to win it on Sunday, but just didn't quite have the best Sunday, but end up with that solo third place finish. Taylor Moore is another guy that I feel like has been playing some solid golf. Him and your boy Matt Neesmith in T4 with the Xander and Cantlay crew. And then just two other pairs that finished towards the top. We talked about the Kim duo, Siwoo Kim and Tom Kim. They played solid throughout, 4 solid rounds, finishing T7. And then I thought one of the most fun pairs throughout the weekend was Keith Mitchell and Sungjae Im. A lot of fun interview stuff with them. Keith Mitchell teaching Sungjae Im what a quarterback is in football, converting him to become a Georgia fan, which I guess must be where Keith Mitchell went to college, I'm assuming. So I thought that was some fun, off the course content stuff for the weekend, which again, like we need more of that in golf. More, we talked about it before, more of that personality type of stuff. And so it seemed like Keith Mitchell and Sungjae Im were having a good time out there, and they were very much in position to contend, but went out and shot even par on Sunday. So yeah, those were just kind of some of the groups at the top and some of the storylines that stuck out to me. And yeah, fun weekend, but definitely looking forward to getting back to some more quote unquote normal golf. And we were looking at the schedule. This is basically the final like wonky event of the year. It's really just the match play and the partners that to me are distinctly different from any of the other tournaments. For the most part, the rest of the way, we'll see your traditional full field top 65 and ties cut type of tournament. And then we'll, of course, get into the FedEx playoffs and all of that towards the end of the season. So yeah, I think those kind of summarizes my thoughts on a fun weekend of partners golf.
Yeah, great call out on Sanjay and Keith Mitchell. I thought the funniest interview that they did was when the interviewer asked Sanjay if you would ever think about wearing the visor. Of course, Keith Mitchell rocks the visor. Sanjay had no idea what the word visor meant at first, and Keith kind of pointed to his hat, and Sanjay just kind of shook his head like, "Not for me, not for me," which I thought was hilarious. I think it's very easy to forget that Sanjay M is only 25 years old. He's been on tour for 5 years. He's got 2 wins. He's an elite talent. And man, on a week when he rolls the rock, he is going to be in contention because he just strikes it so good. So just another reminder of how much young talent is on the PGA Tour, because you don't think of Sanjay as one of the young guys, but he's only 25 years old out there, and pretty much, it has been up near up near the top of the leaderboard a lot more than he's been near the bottom of the leaderboard for somebody who's only 25 years old.
That is true, and it's also like, I mean, I feel like Sunjay M plays a lot of events too, so he's got like 10 years of experience in his 5 years, because I feel like he's a guy that just like, for the most part, he's out there playing every week, just loves the game of golf, and gets a lot of rounds in, plays a lot of different events, and like you said, has had a bunch of success, and is just a fun player on tour. And yeah, I liked that dynamic again. See a little bit of the personalities, and hadn't seen the visor thing. That's pretty funny. I like that a lot.
Yeah, it was hysterical. Just the interaction between the two were great. And yes, you're right. Mitchell is a Georgia grad, so he's a Bulldog. Obviously, Georgia's had an incredible run in college football, so all of the Georgia Bulldogs coming out to rock their squad in their university these days. Two other things on the Zurich before we put a cap on it. Worth noting: Xander and Cantlay, their Thursday was just an abomination. If you're someone that bet them, captained them, you're looking at their Thursday thinking, wow, they're sort of way behind. And they weren't really too far behind. But in the Zurich, when you've got alternate shot on the heels of best ball on Thursday, you're hoping that someone's at 8, 9 under, probably. That's kind of the target that I was thinking about. If you hit 8 under, you felt pretty comfortable about going into Thursday, knowing you didn't need to go super low. I believe Xander and Cantlay were 6 under, and didn't play great. So you kind of felt like, wow, they didn't play great and they're 6 under. They could definitely make a run. And of course they do so on Friday. They shoot a tournament record low score 63 -9 with a bogey, an alternate shot. And they went into the weekend. They continued to roll. They played well, just not well enough to get a victory. But if they shoot a little bit better on Thursday, they're probably right in contention to win this thing. So they continue to be a team to look out for. And I bet they continue to play the Zurich together. It's just a pretty interesting duo, and nice gamesmanship between them. They seem to like it. And when you get guys of that caliber of golf that like playing together and they have an opportunity to, it kind of just makes all the sense in the world to do that. Yeah, they finished T4. And then, they shot a tournament record low score on Friday in alternate shot. And then Hadwin and Nick Taylor go and make an incredible run.
The Canadian duo.
Sunday. Yeah, the Canucks make an incredible run on Sunday. I think I actually don't have the leaderboard of their score.
They shot a 63 as well.
They shot a
so
63.
They must have tied Xander and Cantlay.
Yeah, they tied them, but I believe they made 7 birdies in a row, I believe, was what I had heard on the broadcast. I was a little bit in dad mode this weekend, so I wasn't watching as much golf
correct.
on the weekend.
I'm looking at the scorecard now. They birdied hole 7 through hole 13. 7 in a row.
7 birdies in a row in alternate shot is just an incredible feat. So an awesome, and they posted a -28. They were sort of the first in the clubhouse with that score. And then of course got chased down by Hardy and Riley, but an incredible Sunday finish for them. If you were someone that was holding them in your fantasy lineup, you were loving the run that they were on. They were also bogey free. So they picked up just about every fantasy point that you could pick up on Sunday. So they helped you run up the leaderboard for sure. Quick couple of notes on cash lines, and shout out Barrick. I actually didn't get a chance to pull the cash lines, but he's over there in the Jolly Jokers Discord doing all the things in the Reignmakers PGA channel. So shout out him. Cash lines for the guaranteed contest, 25K guaranteed core, was 615. 35K guaranteed rare was 598, and the 75K guaranteed elite was 617. So rare cash line, even a little lower than the elite cash line. So that's interesting there. But also, as we continue to see some significant decreases in cash line when you look at the prize pack party, which to me this week was kind of a week where you were saying, I'm playing one of two contests. I'm playing guaranteed, or I'm playing, guaranteed plus pack party with some of the lineups that were just kind of like leftover cards, if you will. Cash lines for the pack parties across the three tiers. Core pack party was 549.75. Rare pack party was 514. Elite pack party was 501.5. Worth noting for Mexico, it seems like core pack party, the number of packs has increased, and everyone was very keen on looking at, there was a substantial decrease in the number of packs being given out for the rare and the elite contests this week for the Mexico Open. We'll talk a little bit more about that on Wednesday's show, but I think you see a ton of people jamming most every lineup that they have in the guaranteed contest, just trying to get lucky. I think this also is a field where if you're holding a Jon Rahm, or even if you're just holding a Tony Finau, your lineup in your cards and your collection look pretty good. There's probably a ton of middling options that you have. There's a ton of options, even at the bottom of the board, that have played pretty well over the course of the last couple of weeks. That certainly could be in a 5-card winning lineup, things like that. So you're probably looking at your collection. If you're holding any of the top 3 guys, Rahm, Finau, Wyndham Clark, you're probably looking at your collection thinking, hey, I can make a pretty sound team and a case for my team, running up the leaderboard in these guaranteed contests to kind of to secure one of those top prizes. So I think you see a ton of teams in the guaranteed contest this week. We will see and dive into contest selection a little bit more, like I said, on the Wednesday show. But, I think we've already sort of covered it. To open my thoughts on the Mexico Open, it's pretty much all
I have two final Zurich thoughts.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Hit us.
Move on. So first one is just, I was thinking, and I think I saw someone say this on Twitter, it'd be fun if they made this a designated event in the future. I feel like a partners tournament with all of the big guns playing would be pretty cool. So that just wanted to kind of throw that out into the universe. Not sure if they would ever do that, but I do think that would be pretty fun to see, like, the Rahms and the Rorys and the Schefflers like partnering up with some other people and playing some best ball and alternate shot. And then the other was, and this is a good, I think, transition into the upcoming Mexico Open tournament, is just looking at the OTM website and the market page. You can see the top people or top cards in volume right now are largely a combination of the people that did well this past week, and then the Finaus and the Rahms, as you just said, that are coming up for this week. So you've got Davis Riley's booster at the top of the 24-hour volume with 38 transactions in the last 24 hours. So pretty significant stuff there. Also, the price is up 49% in the last 24 hours. So I thought that was pretty big. And then you've got the Tony Finau booster, the Jon Rahm booster, a couple others mixed in there, but you see Wyndham Clark up there, who's both relevant from last week and this week. So just wanted to also mention those because I was a little bit surprised to see Riley at the top. I mean, to me, it's just like a relevancy thing, right? There's probably a lot of people out there playing Reignmakers that maybe didn't even know who Davis Riley is prior to Sunday, and then they're in contention in the tournament. They end up winning the tournament. They find out it's a young pro with their first win on tour, people going out and making those purchases. So I just found that to be a bit curious to see. And again, just shows that if we're getting ahead of things and kind of reacting to the market prior to some of this information getting more mainstream and getting more public, like, you can definitely make some marketplace flips and plays there. So whether that's the ongoing tournament and identifying that, hey, these people are doing well, they're going to be around come Sunday, people are going to be looking to buy them on the marketplace, as well as we've said many times, staying 1 to 2 weeks ahead and identifying this time last week, hey, Jon Rahm and Tony Finau are going to be massive favorites in this next upcoming tournament. people aren't going to realize that until next week. So I'm going to go ahead, buy those up, and react accordingly. So just two marketplace tidbits, and I think that's kind of a nice transition into the field that we have for this coming Mexico Open. I guess I'll just kind of kick it off. We've already alluded to it like 5 times, but you've got Jon Rahm at the top of the board with plus 280 odds. You then have Tony Finau also with extremely short odds at plus 750. And then you've got Wyndham Clark at plus 1800. And then you kind of get into this, as you said, middling group where there's a bunch of golfers between plus 2000 and plus 5000. And yeah, definitely a unique field construction where there's a clear top 2 that are head and shoulders above the rest of the field. And then from there, you can really go a variety of different directions in terms of who you're going to be filling out your lineups with. And, if Rahm or Finau does not win this weekend, it could be just about anybody from the rest of the field.
Yeah, great call. I think this is the kind of week where you look at your collection, you take a look at odds, and you take a look at the guys around the people you have in your collection, and you can make a case for a lot of people. Guys like Aaron Rai. I've talked about Aaron on the show before. He's been really hot. It's like a question of can he put four rounds together. Guys that we liked last week, Benny On is up there, more towards the top of the board. I like Benny On. He's made a lot of cuts recently. Patrick Rogers, Gary Woodland, even come down a little bit further. I've talked a lot about Dylan Wu. I like Dylan Wu. He's even way further down in the odds board. Mark Hubbard. I think it's the kind of week where you look at your collection and you're pretty pumped about it. And if you have a stand on a guy who's even deeper in the odds, someone that's plus 10,000, when you look at this middling range and when you look at 2,500 to 9K, you're kind of like, well, this guy's 12,000, but I think he can beat half of these guys. And that's kind of all you really need them to do. You really got a really fun event where it's full field. You're going to get 2 sweats out of this thing. You're going to get the Friday cut sweat where you don't really care exact the position of your golfers. You just want as many of your golfers as possible to be making the cut sweat, getting to the weekend. And if they get to the weekend, then it's all about running up the board, how your captain performs against other captains, where there's some ownership leverage, things like that. This is the kind of week where in traditional DFS, I would be fading just about anybody that's not named Jon Rahm, who's going to garner a lot of ownership, because it's just the game theory of if that guy misses the cut, I have an edge on someone that, of 30% of the field, or, if someone even gets anywhere near 50% of the field. I haven't looked at pricing, but typically pricing dictates ownership here in these kind of events. So it's easier to kind of make a stance and just fade some of those guys that are quote unquote chalky. So if we're hearing anything Reignmakers wise, well, where they're going to see some chalk, which I don't really anticipate too much of besides Rahm and Finau. But that's where I'd be making some stands and trying to go to the bottom of the board and try to make some other plays.
I was actually just checking out the DFS pricing, and you have Rahm at 12K, Finau at 10,700, and then those are the only 2 guys that are priced above 10,000, which A, is appropriate. B, as I know this is not a DFS show, but as insane as a $12,000 price tag is, like, Rahm's still probably worth it in this field. And yeah, from a Reignmaker standpoint, I mean, to me, it does seem likely that both Rahm and Finau will be in the winning lineup. That's just kind of my guess, because people are obviously going to play them. They're going to play them with a variety of different combinations. And even if one of them doesn't win, like, it's just so likely that they're going to score top 5 in DraftKings points. Even if they don't win, right? Like, Rahm or Finau could finish T8, but like still be 3rd in DraftKings points because they're going to make a bunch of birdies and all of that. So for sure, obviously, if you own them in your collection, hammer them into the lineup, play them together too. So I have a rare Finau and a Rahm core. So what I'll end up doing is probably just putting Finau in my captain spot as my rare, putting Rahm core regular, and then fitting 3 pieces around them. Maybe some mega game theory bros would say, don't play Rahm and Finau together because they're going to be so highly owned as a duo. Yes, they will be, but like I do feel pretty strongly that they're going to end up in the top 10 when it's all said and done, just because that skill gap is so wide. And yes, anything can happen in golf. The tweet I referenced earlier, the one tournament Rahm was like plus 500 and missed the cut. So like, can that happen? Yes, it can. But in Rainmakers, you have them, you're jamming them into your collection. You mentioned Benny On, definitely a big fan of his in general, and somebody that I like in kind of that mid range this week, and also just sort of sifting through like beyond plus 5,000. There's still tons of names out there that can do well. You've got guys like Mark Hubbard, Matt Wallace, Luke List, who can never putt, but like always, always seems to catch my eye. Joseph
Also,
Bramlett, who I know
also
you've
played
played
well. Luke
before.
List also played well this
Yeah,
past week.
played great this past
Little
week.
bit of like fire in a bottle kind of thing, catching fire when you can. So maybe it's all confidence. Golf is such a mental game. So I think Luke List is someone that, if he's gonna be in your team, you have a lot to like about someone who has his upside.
Yep. And we basically don't have any course history. Like I think this is the only second year that they've had this tournament, right? So there's no real course history. Oh, I just looked at last year's results. Yeah, right. Rahm got first and Finau got T2. Is that?
Yeah, Rahm was the winner from last year. So
And
I think
Finau got T2. Yeah.
that also plays a little bit, a Rahm's Spanish heritage. I think it also plays into the fact that why he's here. He's defending his title from last year. A lot of people, why is Rahm? What events is Rahm playing? Why is he playing this event? I think that goes to show, or goes into that decision there a little bit. But yeah, clearly course history. When we don't have a ton of course history, you kind of just go to recent form,
Yeah.
and you just rely on recent form. So guys that are playing well recently is where I'd be targeting. And to me, I think what I've come to realize in pretty much all of golf, fantasy golf, is it's a very hard game. It is very difficult to get to the top of these leaderboards. There's absolutely no reason to make it harder and be thinking, well, let me fade Rahm, or let me not play Rahm and Finau together, when they're clearly two of the best guys, and you need 5 golfers. Let's just be honest. You're going to need 5 guys through the cut and multiple guys, 3+ guys in the top 10 to win this thing, to take down the top prize. So you might as well just lock in the best odds with Rahm and Finau, and find yourself getting different, or getting on other plays that people are definitely not going to be on, or at least not going to be on in a chalky way for the other 3 spots. Shout out Sergeant Stogie, talked a little bit about questioning this past week for the Zurich. Should you play the top 5 odds? He had the ability to play the top 5 odds in the core contests. And then it was duped, I think in 10,000 plus lineups, it was duped like 22 times, which is actually more than I thought it would ever be duped. So it ended up being that you probably should have got different at spot number 5 and played the 5th ranked guys. I think it might have been Sanjay M or somebody like that in a new lineup. But in general, this field is not the same as last field, and you had partners last week. So this field, I think you will not see that many dupes. And if you do, it's based on pure luck, not based on, odds, because you can kind of click just about anybody below Finau and Rahm, and I think start to get yourself different than a lot of other people are thinking.
Yeah, I think outside of the top 2, there won't be a ton of consensus in terms of who the quote unquote best plays are. And that's one of the fun things about golf, and particularly one of the fun things about the Rainmakers format for golf, is each tournament, while while the roster construction is the same, the game is totally different, right? Because playing the top 2 guys in this field when they're plus 280 and plus 750 is going to be a lot different than the next major comes around, right? And the top 2 guys, yes, they're still the best 2 guys, but they're going to be a lot closer to the top 15, because you just have a lot more, or a lot tighter of a gap in terms of the skill between the top guys and the bottom guys. And golf is not really a fantasy sport where you talk about floor so much, because there really is not much of a floor in golf. But if ever there was a high floor play, it's Jon Rahm and Tony Finau in this field. So I'll definitely be locking the two of them into my main lineup. And then, as you said, look to get different from there, find 1, 2, 3 spots where get a little bit of leverage against the field. And that's where I'm going to be looking, in that kind of plus 5,000 range. And I'll probably go Rahm Finau and then, skip the next 10 or so golfers on the board just to make sure that I do think I'm getting some differentiation there, and then pair them with three guys in that more plus 5,000 to plus 75 type of range. And yeah, it should be a fun one. And then we get right back into elevated events and start to look up towards the next major, which is going to be the PGA Championship in May.
All right. A couple other things before we hold TJ's feet to the fire and get a winning pick from him, because the guy's just been scorching hot, and we'll see if he's going to go back to Old Faithful at the top of the board. We'll see if that's where he goes. A couple things to note. One, DraftKings just announced right before our show started, they're launching for this week a portfolio gated contest. So I'll have more details on this on Wednesday. But in addition to the contests that are in the lobby right now, there will be two other portfolio gated contests, and it looks like you need to hold at least one of the golfer cards from last year's top 5 finishers at the Mexico Open, which could have a little bit to do with why they're pumping in the marketplace. But one of Jon Rahm, Tony Finau, Kurt Kitayama, Brandon Wu, and Davis Riley to get into those two contests. Looks like they're giving away a VIP package to plus travel and accommodations to what looks like the Colonial event, so the Charles Schwab Challenge in Fort Worth, Texas. So pretty interesting stuff. I love that DraftKings kind of pulls out their card here where they have the ability to provide sort of these VIP experiences. So to me, this is like one of those bonus perks that, yeah, Reignmakers, you're trying to play for cash. You want to ultimately make money on this endeavor, but here's an opportunity to get, a VIP experience that kind of money probably can't really buy. So I think there's some interesting angles to this rare tier. What contests are we playing, and where are we putting? How do you hold this kind of events in terms of price and getting access to doing something pretty cool on the golf schedule? So we'll talk a little bit more about that on Wednesday, but also on Wednesday's show, we talked about Keith Mitchell teaching Sanjay Im a little bit about football. I'm going to have with me one of the best DFS football players in the entire industry, our own, of course, Mr. Justin Herzig on the show with me. We're going to do kind of a half golf, half Reignmakers football type show. He's already diving in to Reignmakers football. We're starting to look into that. So for those of you that were out there in the rookie debut drop, we're going to have Justin on, get his takes and thoughts ahead of the draft and some other thoughts that he has on the Reignmakers product in totality. So we'll have Justin on the latter half of the show on Wednesday. So you will not want to miss that. I'll make all my picks and my lineups together on Wednesday, but we only have TJ once a week. So we're holding his feet to the fire here. TJ, been pretty hot as of late. Give us the winner of the Mexico Open in 2023.
I mean, I'm gonna go boring here because he's my guy, but I'm outright winner, Jon Rahm for sure. Lock it in from a Reignmakers and DFS perspective. I would not bet him at plus 280. It's just not enough juice there. But I'm gonna go with Rahm as the winner pick. However, I'll give two more long shots that I like. Again, both for Reignmakers DFS and also more so for outright winner picks. Two guys that are both sitting at the 50-1 number, or at least right around there. We've got Ben Martin, who's been in really good form over the past couple of weeks here. Let's see, I just had his recent performance up. Yeah, so he's made 5 straight cuts at T41, T10, T8, and then a T45, T54. So just playing some solid golf. He's actually made even cuts beyond that. 1, 2, 3. He's made 7 straight cuts. So really like his recent form there. Also from a underlying stats standpoint, he's sixth in this field in strokes gained total and seventh ball striking, including fourth on approach. So someone that's just hitting the ball really well, and I like for this weekend. And then right in that same kind of range, Alex Smalley is another guy that I'm looking at. He did play in this event last year and got T6. He's coming off of 2 missed cuts, so maybe a little bit sneaky in terms of people looking at recent form, but another good young golfer, 13th in the field, tee to green, ball striker. My classic kind of profiles of guys that hit the ball really well, but can be very questionable with the putter. But especially in these long shot fields, I like to take some cracks at those guys. So Jon Rahm as the outright winner, all things considered. But for those of us looking for a bit more of a long shot, check out Ben Martin and Alex Smalley at right around 50-1, depending on what book you're looking at. I think that's a spicy little outright to put on. And then 2 guys that I'm going to be looking at in DFS lineups as well. They're in that like mid 8K pricing range on DraftKings.
You heard it. The man is pretty hot, so it's hard to go against his takes. Appropriately, he's getting some snoozer type comments from the YouTube crowd for going at the top of the board, Jon Rahm. But boy, it's hard to not pick Jon Rahm here. Tune in on Wednesday. I'll have picks that are not Jon Rahm because everyone and their mother is going to be picking Jon to win this tournament. But tune in on Wednesday for more information on my lineups, my picks, who else I like. Of course, the Tuesday strategy article will be up. I always highlight 3 golfers from the different odds tiers, top tier, middle odds, and long shots that I like in this field based on some data. Try to keep it as short and crisp of a read as possible. Have been pretty good there as of late. So Benny On was my call out last week, and he moved up the leaderboard pretty nicely. So been pretty good as of late there. So check that out. But otherwise, you heard it here on the Monday recap and preview show. So that will do it for myself and for TJ. Talk to you guys all on Wednesday and have a great weekend of golf.